Welcome to the Totally Unreal Book Club Podcast, an improvised comedy podcast where everything's made up and the books aren't real. But we'll never admit that. Are you ready? Let's do it.
This book club is totally unreal.
I am your host, Willjwood, and today at the table we have starting to my left, Caitlin Dawkins.
I was about to give Dahi a nasty look, but then I realized he already had one.
Dahi English.
Yeah, it scares me every time I look into the mirror.
Steven Mariachi Band. My Sharon, the one has his shirt off, Steven.
That's me.
Is that hyphenated?
That's my full name.
Okay, so before we get to the book this week, tell me, everybody, what's the book?
You guys all know. You've all read it. This is that timeless classic coming-of-age story of a young child who grew up at his grandparents' house on the ocean. Of course, I'm talking of Kiss from a Seal by Rose Axelson.
Now, so I just want to, because I think most listeners, when they hear that, they're immediately going to think about the hit song.
Which song?
Kiss from a Seal.
Kiss from a Seal, yeah. Well, the song was inspired by the movie. Or the book, sorry.
Well, the song is a literal retelling of the movie.
Yeah.
And the movie is a
literal
somewhat literal retelling of the book.
I'm a little unfamiliar with the song. Can you sing a bit of it?
Yes, I can.
Off key, so we don't get flagged for copyright.
Oh, yeah.
Of course. Ah!
That's about accurate.
Well, that's
Anymore, we could get sued.
That's true. I will quickly do the chorus because everybody knows that it's very obvious. I like getting kissed. I like them seals. I like getting kissed by them seals. That, you know.
Yeah. It's a real toe tapper.
That was almost a spoiler alert right there.
Wow.
Warning. Incoming spoiler. Warning. Incoming spoiler.
So now that we're into spoilers, let's go ahead and jump into some things
Spoilers?
of a spoilery nature.
All right.
I have some eggs that have gone bad recently.
Spoil. Yeah.
Steve, do you want to start us off since it was your book?
Sure. So the main character, Marcus, being this young 9-year-old that didn't have many friends, living in his grandma's house.
Now, that's interesting that you said Marcus was a young 9-year-old, because I read him as more of a middle-aged 9-year-old.
So like 9.5?
No, like a 50-year-old trapped in the body of a 9-year-old.
A 9-year-old with a 9-to-5 job and a wife and kids.
A 95
that explains
job.
the wife and kids in the book.
And the reason that I interpreted it that way was because when you get to the genie in the middle, and he says, "You've roamed this earth for 47 years," to me it implied that he was in fact a 47-year-old man stuck in the body of a 9-year-old child.
Well, so the part with the genie, that...
it's a good thing we're in spoilers, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Because at the very start of the movie, they kind of do a Quentin Tarantino... Damn it, the book. Sorry, not a movie.
Well, which are we talking about? The book, the movie,
The book.
song?
We'll talk about the book explicitly
So
for
we're
now.
mostly about the book.
Yeah, we'll dabble in the song later on.
I like to dabble.
Yeah, but they do a little Quentin Tarantino style thing where at the very start, when they're introducing the character at the beach and he's in his 9-year-old body, that's actually happens way later in the story. But one of his wishes, of course, was to be young again.
Okay, I see. So it's a cold open. Right.
Yeah. So you don't understand that he is actually well into his 50s at this point.
Now, of course, I already know this because I read the book. But I'm just going from the perspective of somebody who's listening to this podcast and doesn't know it. Although,
who would not know this book, though? Like, everybody should know this book.
If they don't know it, they shouldn't be listening because we're already in spoilers.
Yeah.
So
that's very true.
Get your shit together, people.
Yeah.
But speaking of getting your shit together, let's talk about the main character's job, which is to shovel shit.
Mm-hmm.
From 9 to 5.
He's a shit shoveler.
Yeah. Did we mention his name yet?
Marcus.
I just asking a question.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's a very good question.
So Marcus is, well, you know, They didn't call it that. They called it fecal reassignment.
That's true.
So Marcus is a fecal reassigner.
Right.
He takes fecal matter from one pile and puts it into another, or various smaller piles rated from texture, smell.
Was corn present?
Taste.
Well,
color.
I mean, that wasn't part of the company MO, but he goes the extra mile.
There's an extra line on the sheets that he fills out about like corn,
notes.
yes or no. Check
Interesting
box.
fact that the company doesn't give him sheets; he just brings them along.
Yeah.
That's why they promoted him.
Well, as we find out later, it's
because he really gives a sheet.
As we find out later, we're just jumping right into this week. As we find out later, of course. This is not a job at all. This is just something that he does, and then then solicits money from people. It's kind of like when you were when you were in the body of a 9-year-old. When you were 9, and you would go,
that's a normal way to describe
you'd go
it.
around and you would like just knock on people's doors and be like, "Hey, can I mow your lawn for money?" Or can I rake your leaves for money? And but sometimes you would just do it first, and then you'd knock on the door and say, "Hey, I raked your leaves legally. You owe me money now." This is what Marcus was doing.
9-year-olds do.
Except Marcus was doing this, of course, because while the book is set in no specific time, there's no definite timeline or like setting period for the book. They do mention that everybody lives in the woods. And so there is no plumbing, so of course they've got this issue. Everybody just throws their waste out with the waste, and everybody's totally cool with it, just kind of falling wherever. But Marcus took it as a young entrepreneurial 47-year-old in a 9-year-old's body to do this. Of course, at this point, he's not in a 9-year-old body yet. You know what, Steve? Go ahead. You know.
Yeah, you're getting a little Hoppy, Skippy around here.
Well, Hoppy and Skippy don't show up until a little bit later, but we'll get to them.
Yeah, but you're being like them, and I don't like it.
So where are we at right now? We're starting at the start again, or do we want to start like chronologically where it all happens?
Well, we can start at the false start, or we can start at the start after the false start.
Let's start at the beginning of the
which
book.
Makes it
beginning of the book.
Yeah.
Okay. So we've got 57-year-old Marcus in the 9-year-old's body.
Right.
Because he's just had his wish granted, but we don't know that.
He's on the beach.
Yeah.
And he's being held captive by a gang of seals.
Right. Yeah. Of course. This is where they all ganging up on him, and he's just standing in the shallows, and they've just got him completely surrounded.
Yeah, they just came in off the boat with all their guns and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They said, "Give us your herring." He said, "I don't got any herring on me."
Now, which government did the Navy SEALs belong to? Was this the American Navy SEALs, or was this the... I mean, the America...
No, they were animals. They were just Navy in color.
I know they were animals. They were just crazy. Like they were really wild. They were humans, but they were animals. I know what you're saying.
Oh my goodness.
Well, all of this is cut short when Marcus's grandmother appears and chases the seals away by throwing fish guts in the water, and they all go jumping after the fish guts.
Yes, because they were very hungry, because they had been starved. That was part of the military training, was to starve them for affection. And so when somebody throws them a bone, or in this case, fish guts, they're just like, ooh, adulation.
I think this has happened to them before, hence why they originally asked Marcus for herring. And they were just like, any other fish, like, that's probably their main objective when they go to any beach, just trying to mug people for whatever food they have.
Right. And then, of course, the beach is very close to the aforementioned woods that they all live in. So they were kind of just like, whenever they see trees, they just kind of fall into like a relapse of fish guts and tree sap, and they just become animals, as Dahi mentioned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
until later on when they literally transform into animals. But that's when the genie comes in, and we're not there yet.
Well, no, this is after he had met the genie and got his wish granted. Chronologically.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, we go past the false opening in the
So
book
this
as well.
in
You're
the
forgetting
book,
that the
this
genie
is
comes back later too.
Oh, yeah.
in the book. This is the first time we've met the seals, but this is not the first time that Marcus has met the seals. Although it is the first time he's met the seals as a 9-year-old.
And it is the first time he's met the seals in the book non-chronologically.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
And I'm just also saying that.
Great. I'm glad we both said the same thing.
Oh my goodness.
So
that's the end of
after
the
the
cold
seals, after
Yeah.
the seals escape, Grandma says, "Come on, honey, let's get you some food. I'll make you a sandwich." And then the chapter ends, and we skip to a different time period.
Yeah, we don't find out until much later on what sandwich she made him.
Yeah,
And
I was wondering
the results were shocking.
Yeah.
So
Very
remember
important.
that because it's
You will
important
not
later.
believe
the
what
the chapter ended, and I was like, "What kind?" I was yelling.
I know. It's
Yeah.
clickbait in book form.
Yeah.
The real answer, I mean, just to give you a heads up, it's really gruesome and dark. So after that, we get to, and they don't explain this, so it's a little confusing. We just jump right to him being a 47-year-old man, which you would think was, this cold open was in the past, but no, it was in the future.
Right.
Right. So we get to Marcus, the next real first chapter opens up, and it's Marcus shoveling fecal matter, soliciting for money.
He assumed it was mostly human. There was some that was questionably bear, but nobody could really answer if bear shit in the woods, so.
Nobody answered.
No.
That form that he was filling out was just a giant question mark with a silhouette of a bear shitting.
He also carried those forms around because sometimes there's not enough toilet paper to go around, and he just likes to be prepared. Which is why, of course, he later got the nickname Slice Ass, because he would often give himself paper cuts on his cheeks. Which is why he originally sought the genie in the first place.
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
no, you see, yes, that's why. But while he was shoveling the shit, he discovered something, a nugget inside one of the nuggets, right?
A nugget of gold.
Exactly, yes. You read the book, right?
I sure.
But it was magical gold. That's the thing, right?
Yeah, they call that fool's gold.
In the book, yeah.
Yeah.
That's not what it is in real life, but
Yeah.
No, it's based when you read it, you're to think, like our fool's gold. But the fool's gold here is that it actually is a key for fools. But fool's not like, this person is an idiot. Fool's like, this person is the chosen one. That fool.
Yes.
It's true. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
But they don't explain that either. So as a reader, you're going through and like, he's kind of foolish, I guess. But I didn't think it was that big a deal.
So he takes the fool gold key and puts it in his pocket, and he's like, "I'm going to the dentist." And
Because he
one
had an
does.
appointment.
yeah, he had an appointment. So he goes to the dentist.
and he ends up handing the dentist this form that he had created himself that
Yeah.
says he has a dental plan, but really he doesn't. He
Yeah.
just made it up himself.
And the dentist goes, "Dental plan?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's my dental plan."
Yep.
And of course, The Simpsons then stole that from this book.
Yeah.
Matt Groening is a confirmed listener of this podcast, and hiya, Matt.
So the dentist is actually turns out not to be a very good dentist. He doesn't actually have a medical license. He just has a form that he wrote that says medical license. So he
But he has a
pulls
really-
out all Marcus's teeth.
Yeah, well, he got the position because he has the largest drill in the forest.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, no one could stop him.
Yeah, so he pulls out all Marcus's teeth and strings them on a necklace for Marcus to wear, and sends him on his way. And Marcus is like, well, because he has no teeth.
But he remembers the nugget in his pocket, so he sticks that in his mouth because he figures, hey, this is like a tooth. And so he sticks that in, of course, not knowing, as the chosen one, he himself is the gateway to which a key must be entered.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in goes the key, and out from his mouth pops nothing, because that would be weird. Instead, what happens is he gets sucked inside his own belly button,
Yeah.
because that is normal.
That's normal. Yeah.
And,
That's how stories go.
and he has a fever dream.
Yeah, that's the thing. Was he actually pulled into the belly button? I thought that was just part of the
Is it part of the dream? We don't know. That is one of those things we like to call speculation.
So in this fever dream, he meets the genie.
Well,
he gets
yes.
visions of the genie.
Yeah, it's the first
doesn't
time
know
he
it's-
encounters
He doesn't
the
know
genie.
it's genie yet. At first, he thinks that it is a car.
Because he
And that the
doesn't know what a
is-
car is.
And that the
They don't have many inventions in this area. They have sandwiches, drills, dentist, singular, and they don't have outhouses
Feces.
apparently. Yeah, feces.
They have the
that was
invention
a big
of
invention when they
feces.
first person came up with feces.
They
were like,
invented that
"This guy
about
is a
12
genius."
hours after they existed.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so he thinks it's a car because he does. He doesn't know what a car is, but he was
decides
still
that thing is
accurately
called a car.
correct, though. He thought it was a car. The car was about to run him down, and just as it goes to make contact with him, he transforms into a banana peel and trips the car.
Yeah. And the car goes wah, wah.
And he's
Because
like-
that's its horn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were saying, "Get out of the way." And and then, of course, he sees the vision of the genie, but the genie is heading towards the beach in his mind. He'd never seen a beach before, but he knew what a beach was because he just knew as the chosen one.
Yeah, I mean that's
how he knew what a car was.
That's what the key did. It unlocked knowledge into his mind.
Yeah, he now had knowledge of everything that ever was and everything that ever will be.
Yes.
But at this point, Marcus accidentally sneezes and launches the nugget right out of his mouth, exits the fever dream, loses all his knowledge, loses everything.
Loses the nugget.
Well, he didn't lose it. It landed, there's a giant pile of shit on the ground, and it just narrowly missed it. So he picks it back up and brushes it off, puts it back in his mouth. Everything comes rushing back again, and he thinks to himself, I cannot let this nugget go ever.
Of course, he loses it 6 more times over the course of the book.
That's true, but we'll get to that later.
Yes.
We definitely will.
I'm definitely will, and I say the next part. So, moving on, when he gets that nugget back in his mouth again, he doesn't have a fever dream the second time, because now what's happened, so it's kind of like an unlocking stage. He has to have a fever dream, and that unlocks the next part of the knowledge, which therefore unlocks the next part of the story.
And of course, that whole structure really lended itself to the video game, which came out a few years after the book. The whole like unlocking things to progress in the story.
Yeah, but like most movie, book, music tie-in games, it was the kind of stuff that Marcus shovels.
Yeah, it was universally panned. So
Shovelware, right?
we won't talk about it.
Yes, exactly. And the trophy list was bad. I mean, it was just...
Anyway, let's talk about the book.
I'd like to take a minute...
Just sit right there. Hello?
I'm taking a minute to sit right here.
You're supposed to tell us something.
Well, I was about to.
I want to hear about your time where you were the Prince of
until you
Bel-Air.
fresh princed me. Anyway, I'd like to take a moment to talk about Hoppy and Skippy.
Absolutely.
Because this is when they arrive into the... We haven't told... I mean, we know at this point, but we haven't told anybody the name of the forest village, which of course is Hankolark.
Hankolark.
Yeah, Hankolark.
I read it as Hankalark, but okay.
Well, I like to put a bit of a ha-la-la-la spin on it, you know? Because it just makes things feel more mystical.
I mean, did you Did you listen to the audiobook? Is that why you've got these pronunciations?
I recorded the audiobook.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting choice.
What? To record an audiobook? Hey,
To call
pays
it
the bills.
Hunkolark.
That was that they gave me a pronunciation guide, so that comes straight from the author, him or
Rose
herself.
Axelson.
Yeah, him or herself.
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 Rose? I don't know
Axelson.
many guys named Rose.
Well, but Axl Rose.
Maybe there's one.
That's Axel's his first name.
Well, Axl Rose was the singer of the song, so it makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, we're getting all misaligned here, but Hankolark, or Hankolark, if you prefer, is the village, and this is when Hoppy and Skippy show up because they were on a pilgrimage, visiting all the different forests, villages, so that they could collect a nugget. And if they collected all 7 nuggets, they would take it, and then they could summon the great genie. And of course, this is when Marcus overhears them because they like to speak about the pilgrimage they're on as they're on it, and figures, oh, I have one of those nuggets, and if I tail them to the other 6 nuggets, then I can summon the genie, which will in turn bring my grandmother back to life.
And he also decides he's going to wish his teeth back.
Well, yeah, I
He's
mean,
had enough of oatmeal.
but
and
it's all kind of the
other
same
pastes.
wish because his grandmother, before she passed, was the greatest dentist alive. And so this was his
And now
grand
she's
plan.
the greatest dentist dead, of course.
Yeah.
Yes. But she is unable to practice in this state. So so he's
The
going,
state of being dead,
Yes.
Yeah. And also Hawaii.
They just
which is where the story takes place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there's just
Hunkalark,
not enough
Hawaii.
insurance in the world for that. So you did mention that this is on an island, which is exactly why the forest is next to the beach.
Yep.
So it all makes sense if you want it to.
So he tries to tail Hoppy and Skippy, right? To try and figure out where all the other nuggets are so that he can collect them himself. But he's not very sneaky, and so he gets jumped by their brother Jumpy.
Yes. Well, that's Jumpy was they. Of course, when you're on a pilgrimage, you have to hire some muscle to protect you.
It was sad
But
that they had
they're-
to hire their own brother, not just ask him to come along.
Not actual brother, like blood brother.
Oh.
They just called him.
Oh, right,
brother.
right.
Well, Jumpy,
for
yes,
appearances.
but their actual blood brother Muscle was unavailable because he was currently also in Grandma's state of dead.
Yeah,
Because
he had taken on the seals, and they were so hangry, they just stomped him to death.
they
They're
did.
flippers.
Yeah, yeah, they were still wearing their water gear.
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, you got Jumpy there, and so Jumpy jumps Marcus and says, "Hey, man, what you doing? Well, don't follow them, you crazy shit shoveler. I'm gonna stop you because I'm Jumpy the Jumper Man." I did the audiobook, so
Yeah. Spot on. It was very similar to the
Thank
to
you.
the time you recorded it last time.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So that's, what Jumpy did. And then Marcus was like,
Well, Marcus didn't say anything because he had the nugget in his mouth, and he didn't want to reveal to them that he had one of the nuggets already, or they would have really been chasing him.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. Marcus was like,
Just nodding.
yeah, exactly.
To anyone
and trying
who are
to like
listening's out
shrug
there.
and look like he was harmless, like making like a sorry face.
Puppy dog eyes.
Yeah.
Except he'd never seen a puppy before, so they called them eyes.
Yeah.
So Jumpy says,
Saddy baby eyes is what he called them.
So Jumpy says, "Well, okay, man, then you just go about your business, but if I catch you again, I'll start with your family and I'll pick them off one at a time, and then they'll all be dead, and then I'll bring your grandma back to life and kill her again too."
He had a remarkable amount of knowledge about Marcus's family's
Well, there's a
whereabouts
reason for
and
that.
status.
There's a reason for that,
Yeah.
but that's the largest reveal at the end of the book.
Other than the sandwich.
That's the second largest reveal.
Yeah. Actually, they're kind of tied into each other, so we'll...
Sort of, yeah. There's some rope involved. But yes. So Jumpy leaves Marcus alone and hops back into the forest, not to be seen.
Not with Hoppy. He leaves, is what you're saying.
Well, he's tailing Hoppy and Skippy.
And he hops towards Hoppy.
It was just some colloquialism, okay? It's fine. So, yeah. That's what happens. Go ahead.
Yeah, so, well, Marcus is trailing Hoppy and Skippy, and he trips over a dead skunk, and the nugget goes flying out of his mouth, because, of course, we mentioned that Nugget keeps losing it. That's one of the times. And the nugget lands in a hole that Marcus has to figure out how to climb down into to get the nugget.
Yeah. And so he starts... he just dives right into that hole, and it ends up breaking apart, and he falls through to an underground society.
Yeah, mole people.
Well,
they were just regular people. They had
large moles on their
Yeah.
faces. Yeah.
He referred to them in his thoughts as mole people, which was quite rude, but... Yeah.
Not only that, but they were spying on the people up above.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because they would emerge and then they would like pretend to be.
They would cover up their moles with like hats and stuff and pretend to be
Half
normal
of
people.
the small piles of shit were actually little molehills, and they were just like poking their heads up. They
Yeah,
had
they
little
would use them-
periscopes that
yeah, like
popped up
little-
like little corns.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a gross book.
Yeah.
So that's basically all that happened. He just kind of fell down there and said, "Oh, what's going on here? Oh, there's my nugget," and off he went.
Yeah.
And we never heard from the mole people again.
No,
Well,
but we knew
never
we were
heard
there.
from them, but
There's
we
little
definitely...
signs that they're
it's
still there.
It's like little Easter eggs
Easter
sprinkled
eggs,
around.
yeah.
the book.
Exactly. Well, they would leave signs along the road, and then
We
they would
were
put
here.
Easter
Decorated
eggs
eggs.
underneath them.
Yeah.
So that's how you knew they were there.
One of them just said "mole people was here," spelled WUZ. I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, cool."
And then don't touch my eggs.
Yeah.
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 Not many people know this, that moles lay eggs. Physical moles. Oh, well.
Which is irrelevant to the mole people.
I know.
But,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
anyone
he-
that thinks I actually don't know anything about biology, I know that only some species of moles lay eggs.
Just
Only-
the-
I'm not a fool.
just the giant ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The chicken moles.
Yeah, exactly. So Marcus has recovered his nugget, and he gets back on the trail of Skippy and Hoppy.
Still a little jumpy. The Jumpy might be nearby.
Yeah, he doesn't want to get jumped again by
Jumpy.
Jumpy. Yeah.
Yep, that's correct. And then so he follows them, and they arrive at the second site, because of course at the town that Marcus is from, you know the one.
Hankalark.
Yeah,
Oh,
Hankalark.
That was close.
Skippy and Jumpy just went right past that town because they figured that the nugget wasn't there.
It's too small, they figured.
Because it wasn't, because Marcus had it and they didn't know that. So they just went on to the next one. So they get to the next forest village, Helongryong.
Halongryonk?
Helongryong. Yeah, I just like to say
I know.
it all.
Yeah. Mystical.
Yeah, that's the fourth village. But Helongryong is there, and they find the nugget. It's actually in a shrine, which enshrines the nugget. And of course, in order to get through there, they have to best the village elder in a game of tic-tac-toe.
And now I want to actually break away and say that I think it's really interesting that Marcus is now starting to learn about new cultures. This is a new adventure. He's never left his village
very
before.
true.
Right. in their village, they only play Connect 4.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So-
Exactly. So this is completely new culture to him, and he observes this and just finds it incredibly strange.
And he thinks he's going to best the mayor by, like, absolutely destroying him in a game of tic-tac-toe. So he goes back into the woods on his own briefly and finds a tick. And he goes and he finds a couple little push pins and he attaches them to all of the tick's feet. And he brings this tic-tac toes up to the mayor and he presents it and says, "What do you think?" And the mayor was flabbergasted, didn't know what to say. He's like, "Yeah, you know what? Take the nugget. I've been bested."
Which was interesting because, unfortunately, the nugget was already gone because because Marcus was supposed to be tailing them while they find the other nuggets, and of course he forgot about that, so he went to go get his tic-tac-toe, and when he came back, of course, Skippy and Hoppy, who were actually on the pilgrimage, had already won the game of tic-tac-toe because they went first, and so so they had already taken the nugget, but the mayor said, have the nugget, because he was so impressed that instead what he gave him was a different nugget. It was a nugget that the mayor had made himself. And Marcus knew exactly what to do with that, and so he went and put it in a pile.
Yeah. And moved it into a slightly smaller pile shortly thereafter.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, man. And it was really hard to pin a thumbtack onto a tick, because ticks are very tiny, and their feet are almost imperceptible. Unfortunately, of course, in doing this, many ticks did burrow into Marcus's skin, and he did get Lyme disease. But that is also solved by the genie later.
Yeah.
Well, it turned out he already had Lyme disease, as did most people living in all the villages. This whole forest, that all the villages are all like little subsections in this giant forest, but all have different names.
Well, no, not all of the villages.
No?
No, the next one actually just had diseased limes.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which is how the Lyme disease spread amongst all the villages.
Well, ticks love limes.
Yes.
It's a fun fact, another little biological tidbit for you guys there.
But from that tick, he got actual LYME disease, which is a degenerative disease, so time was now ticking.
As were the toes.
Tick jokes.
But
Anyway.
he just drank a lot of margaritas to try to help with the Lyme disease.
Right. Well, that's what you do, because the next village was Margaritaville.
Yeah.
And he had wasted, once again, his time there, because when he arrived, they had
The
already...
immortal Jimmy Buffett was there.
Well, that was just the name that they had for their all-you-can-eat restaurant.
Yeah, it's called Jimmy
the
Buffet.
immortal Jimmy Buffet.
Yeah.
And that's where he
you're trying to
discovered-
do the mystical thing too, aren't you?
Well, a little bit.
Jimmy Buffet.
That's where he discovered margaritas, and they instantly made him feel better. So he took a huge bucket to go.
Yep. Of course, while this was happening, Hoppy and Skippy had gotten the nugget and already went on to the next village,
Yeah.
which
Yeah,
was,
Marcus
of
just
course,
wasting way too much time.
the village of the dead.
I thought it was Mystical. Oh, yeah, that was the name of it.
Yeah, mystical, the village of the dead.
Yeah.
And that, of course, is where his grandma had retired to,
Yeah.
in her grave.
Non-voluntarily.
And so basically, it's just a cemetery.
It was kind of a misnomer to call it a village,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it took up the space of a village, and it had a large population. So, so of course they had to. But now this is where Marcus really kind of came into his own and helped the pilgrimage, because of course they didn't know where the nugget was. There was 3 mausoleums, and they each had a riddle tied to them. And of course Hoppy and Skippy couldn't figure it out, and so they were sitting there for a long time trying to figure it out, and then all of a sudden in comes Marcus, and they noticed him, and they notice his shovel, and they say, hey, we don't have to solve riddles.
We can just dig.
This young fine shit shoveler, who is actually middle-aged, can just dig
He's younger than them, so it's all
dig.
relative.
Well,
And he said to them, "Excuse me, I am a fecal reassigner." And
Except
I
he had
would
the
like-
nugget in his mouth, so it was like, and then
Yeah.
he kind of stopped because he
And
didn't
they
want to
said,
give away that
"Listen."
he had the nugget.
I'm like,
cut the
"All right,
shit.
mumbles."
Just get this done. So after he finished cutting his shit, he got it done. And he dug up the nugget, and then eventually he found the golden nugget. And then he
He stuck it in his pocket and pretended like he didn't actually have it, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He was very secretive about it.
But Jumpy was watching. So Jumpy
Yeah.
jumped out. Jumpy said, well, you can do his voice much better than me, so I'm just going to like...
Hey, you shit shoveler, I told you to stay away from my sisters, from another misters, and I said, if you come back, I'm going to get you, and you came
And
back, and I'm going to get you.
Before Jumpy can even finish, Marcus just slaps him full across the face, and then with the other hand, the other way full across the face, and Jumpy just stops talking. Because apparently that was a spell, and it removed his ability to speak.
Yes,
So he went
because it removed
he's-
his ability to live.
He slapped him dumb.
And dead.
Dumb and dead.
And he truly was in the village of the dead.
Which was, it was
Yeah.
convenient.
And they already had a grave dug, so they just dumped Jumpy in.
And Jumpy was never heard from again.
Yeah. So then Hoppy and Skippy...
For now.
well,
were-
not heard from, but we see him later.
Well, yeah, the mole people come back again later. They're like, what the hell? Why are they dropping bodies in our village?
So at this point in the book, I think that Rose had just gotten sort of tired of this whole pilgrimage thing, because the next page literally just says remaining nuggets found in montage.
Yeah. Because Hoppy and Skippy take Marcus with them. They're like, hey, we need a new muscle guy, and you literally slapped our last one to death, and you're so helpful, come along with us. So Marcus is like, awesome, like I'm gonna, steal the nuggets. Yeah, well, he thinks it. He doesn't say it, of course. He can't say anything. But yeah, he follows along with them in the montage, and they
Exactly.
get it all done.
The montage is meant to be set to the song
I was just
Kissed
gonna
by a
say that,
Seal.
yeah.
Or Kissed from a Seal, sorry. And that's why every copy of the book comes with a voucher code to redeem on iTunes for a copy of the song. And speaking of iTunes, while you're there listening to this podcast, please leave us a written review and a 5-star rating and subscribe. But back to the book, or movie, or song, depending on what you are listening to while you're listening to this podcast. But the book is what we're here to talk about. So
the montage ends, and they have all 7 nugs. Well, I mean, they have 6, and Marcus has the 7th, but Hoppy and Skippy don't know that. So all 7 have been found.
And at this point, being in his mouth for so long, that nug is starting to feel real dank.
Yeah. There's one dank nug. So Hoppy and Skippy think there's still a 7th one out in the wild. They're plotting on which village they should go to next to get this 7th one that they think is still out in the wild. But Marcus knows that he has this secret 7th one. So he makes a plan on how to steal the other 6 from Hoppy and Skippy without them knowing.
And he figures the easiest and best way to do that is to murder them.
Yes.
But he didn't want to do it on his own and be tied into their murder. I mean,
Well,
he'd
he'd already murdered
Jumpy.
But that wasn't on purpose. He
No.
just wanted to slap him.
At that point,
quiet.
it wasn't on purpose, but now he'd gotten a taste for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is where he'd heard of these seals that you could hire, and they would come and assassinate people for you. So this is when he first starts thinking, maybe I should just get these seals involved, and they can do the dirty work for me, and I'll get my teeth back.
So that's when
Yeah.
he grabs a carrier pigeon and writes a letter to the Navy SEALs. And he sends that letter off, and he waits 6 weeks. And after 6 weeks, he still hasn't gotten a response. So he says, well, forget it. I'll just take matters into my own hands, which is what he uses to kill people. And so he just, unfortunately, he didn't get the chance to murder because it had been 6 weeks, and Hoppy and Skippy had already left. They just went back to their own village and left the nuggets behind because they just never found the 7th one. So he just went and picked them up.
They really weren't that committed to it.
No.
It was just something they were.
Well,
It was like
They
a
had
summer internship.
They had a
so-
hard time limit because it was time for the harvest. They had to go home and get that done. So,
which comes in the fall.
Well, harvesting the limes.
yeah.
Yeah. So he grabs the nuggets and, he just kind of weighted them out, and he grabs the nuggets, and then he puts each one of them into a different hole in his body, and out from him is born the genie and a car.
Yeah.
So he hops in the car and
It's the horn which goes, wah, wah.
And I mean, this is like a proper sports car. So I think it was like a bit of projection on the author's part, because maybe they were going through a midlife crisis and really wanted a car too.
Yeah.
So and of course, Marcus being middle-aged himself, he ends up with this sports car too.
which all leads into the wish that Marcus makes. So the genie, that once he hits the horn, out pops a banana peel, and well, not a banana peel. Out pops a banana, and Marcus peels the banana, and from inside the banana comes the genie.
Just sitting in there, he's like, hello.
And the genie says, I will grant you 1 wish. And Marcus says, well, what about 3 wishes? And he says, no, 1 wish.
So then he wishes for 3 wishes.
And
Yeah.
then he gets a slap on the wrist. Literally. He
Genie says,
no.
you can't wish for 3 wishes.
So Marcus thinks, okay, let's see, I need a wish here that will solve my dentistry, that will also make me bring me my youth back, and another thing too.
Well, he wants to bring his grandma back, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
He misses
So
his
that's
grandma,
what
doesn't
he
wanna be
so
alone.
exactly. So he says, I got this.
I know when my grandma used to be alive. I
Exactly.
know when I used to have my teeth.
Exactly. Make me 9 again. And the genie says, no, I can't do that. And he says, really? He says, nah, I'm kidding. And he does it. And Marcus thought he was going to go back in time to being 9 again, but no, he was just given the body of a 9-year-old.
Not even
Yeah.
his own body
He
from when he
didn't-
was 9. Just he was a different person now.
Well,
He didn't phrase his question well enough.
It was the most recent 9-year-old in Mystical.
So he is,
Mystical was the land of the dead.
he's,
Yeah, so it's the most recent 9-year-old from there.
he essentially,
Recent dead 9-year-old.
no, live.
No.
Now he was alive.
He essentially replaced the soul of another 9-year-old and inhabited his body.
But no, you're missing it. It was the village of the dead. Everyone there was dead.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they got the least corpsed up body and gave
The
it
freshest 9-year-old.
to him, which is why
my God.
he was pretty good. But you know, he was
Did have his teeth back, but
he's missing a few
digits.
skin patches. And,
Yeah.
It's a little bit
whatnot.
like Death Becomes Her, if you guys have seen that movie.
I have not.
Oh,
No,
well.
but what was really cool was that he now had a pet because there was a small rat living in the body, and it just kind of crawled in and out at comical times, like squeak squeak.
He called it Nibbles.
Yeah,
because that's what it
would-
did to him.
It nibbled on his body. But
We told you things get dark.
but they haven't gotten dark enough yet.
No.
So he's like, well, this is cool, but I got my teeth back, and I guess I got my youth back, but Grandma's still dead. But being that he was now in between alive and dead, he could speak to the dead. So he returned to Mystical, and he dug up his grandma, and unfortunately she wasn't there because she had already risen from the grave. We don't know why. It just happened. And she walked out from the 3rd mausoleum and said, I've been waiting for you, Marcus. Come
You're late for
with
your dentist
me."
appointment.
Well, now, we say that we don't know, but I think it's implied that she was actually a mole person all along.
Well, she did have that big
It's
mole
not
on her
only
face.
just implied, because if you let me finish, you should come with me to the village of the moles where I am from. And I've been alive this whole time.
Would you like a sandwich?
Yeah. And he says, oh, that's cool. Let's do that. And so, but they take a shortcut because the village of the moles is all underneath the whole island and they have to get to certain parts. So they take a shortcut over to the beach. And just when they arrive at the beach, that's when the ship pulls up. And it's the very Navy SEALs that Marcus had sent away for 6 weeks ago by carrier pigeon.
Absolutely.
It takes a long time for them to get there. So.
And also because they had eaten the pigeon.
And they didn't have any motor or anything on the boat. All the Navy SEALs were just holding onto the back and kicking as hard as they could.
Yeah,
They
paddling.
were going, orf, 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 the whole way.
That's their
That's their
chant.
their-
That's their motto.
that's their
Like
Not oorah.
not oorah. No.
Oof.
Orf,
Orf, orf,
Yeah,
orf,
yeah.
orf. With every kick.
Yes. It sounds kind of funny, but it's very intimidating in actuality.
So this is where, they're down by the water. The SEALs are all coming in. They're down by the house, and Grandma goes inside to start making this sandwich. And this is right back at the very start of the book now. Marcus
we've
is
heard
standing
this
in the
part
water.
already.
Yeah, but now it makes a lot more sense as to why he got there and how
Does
this all
it?
came to be. It does.
It does.
I guess, yeah.
As he no longer needs the Navy SEALs to do his murdering for him. In fact, he doesn't want them to, because now he's got the taste for murder. So
Yeah.
he's
and they're cannibals, so that's why they were so hungry. They were arriving hungry because they were expecting to kill and eat whoever it was that they were supposed to. Yeah.
So this is when the grandmother throws all the like fish guts off the balcony for the seals. So they start running over there.
Being a formerly deceased woman and now a mole person, she knows what's up. So she's
been around the block a few times.
She's prepared. So she throws those guts out and they go off running.
All of them except for one.
Yep.
One of them just kind of starts running, but it's really hard to run in flippers. And he kind of stops what he's doing and he turns back and he looks at Marcus and his missing patches of skin and nibbles the rat.
And he says,
sorry,
go ahead.
Yeah. And he just walks up to him, doesn't say a thing, just kisses him gently on the cheek, and then runs away.
Yeah, gives him the seal of approval.
Yeah. Well, that was the kiss from a seal. Had to happen at some point. Otherwise, why would you name the book that?
Of course.
Yeah, I know. But it's just that you forgot the part where he does say before he does that, like, yeah, I could kiss that. So he does. That's all. I just liked that part.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's take a short ad break here. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Axl Rose, the hit singer from the song Kissed from a Seal, available on iTunes.
It's also brought to you by Skippy and Hoppy Brewery, the peanut butter lager.
This podcast is also brought to you by Jumpy's Bodyguard Service. He'll jump you.
It's also brought to you by Chicken Moles. Go on down to the supermarket and buy yourself a dozen eggs.
Delicious.
This episode is also brought to you by Cars, the Pixar movie.
Also brought to you by fashion label Dentistry. They have a really beautiful tooth necklace. It's actual human teeth. So, yeah.
Get that on Etsy?
Yeah.
Sweet.
This episode is also brought to you by dropping banana peels from your car, because that's what you do when you're in first place, baby.
Ironically, not even ironically, but funnily enough, it's also brought to you by Banana Genies. So peel one open and make a wish. So long as that wish is for a banana.
And not for more wishes.
Yes.
Finally, this podcast is brought to you by www. And if you type all of that in, you're gonna have to backspace a lot because it's www.molesarepeople2 in the Navy / grandma's soup and if you go to that website and enter the promo code tubcpodcast, they will send you a free banana genie in a car. So back to the farm.
Well, no.
No.
Well, no.
Steve's face is dead now.
So, I think now that we're caught up to where the beginning of the book is, I think now is probably a good time to start. And we never actually read the back of the book. Can we just take a break and read from the back of the book?
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. You're already holding it.
Yeah, I'm
Go
holding it and I'm facing it towards you, Will.
Why?
Well, it's pretty easy to turn around.
I could, and I will.
Good.
Oh, good.
No,
he
you
will.
dahi.
You dahi. Yeah, damn it.
You know what? Here, I'll read the first line, then you can take it from there.
Okay, sure.
Okay. Hello, readers. I am speaking to you from beyond the page because I wrote this book. And you are reading it. And if you don't continue to read it, well, then I will be very sad. But... And then you take it from there.
Well, that's in the middle of a sentence, but all right. But if you choose to place this book down, you will not learn of the mystery of the
Magical underwear and what its significance is for sandwich making.
Oh, thanks for jumping in, Caitlin. Steve, would you like to finish it off?
Absolutely. I hope you like seals, and I hope you like kisses, because in this one you're going to get a bunch of seals, but only one kiss.
Yeah, and that's the back of that book.
Well, I think that's kind of a spoiler, actually.
Not really. It's
Well, sort of, yeah.
Sort of, yeah,
The
I guess
book's
so.
called Kiss from a Seal, and...
Oh, I missed the last line where it says, and only one kiss. Or is there more?
and as
Yeah,
we
forgot
find
to write
out,
that, yeah.
Yeah.
there is more.
Yes, many more.
Well,
Like 3 more.
Yes.
And then another 3 bonus kisses.
yes, but okay, we'll get to that. So we're almost near the end of the book here. We're getting very close. Well, we are near the end of the book.
Well,
We're
no,
almost at
we
the
just
end
read
of
the end of the book because it was the back.
Yeah.
Ah.
Dahi, the back is not the end.
I always read it last.
It's only the beginning.
It's usually the beginning. We
This is
just
the
do
back
it
end.
different.
This is
Okay.
fun.
So, we then return to the village of the mole people after having dealt with the Navy SEALs and getting the kiss. And inside the village of the mole people, we found that a large meteorite was about to be launched at neighboring planet Mars.
Yep.
Yeah, the
Yep.
mole people had a long-standing feud with the
Martians.
Martians. Yes, the people living on Mars, who happened to be vole people. So they were planning on launching this
I told you there was a dark twist at the end of this book.
meteorite to kill all the vole people, because they had taken their magical underwear.
But before they could, Marcus, sorry, that honking is on our end, not on your end. Nobody's trying to kill you.
Is that what you do when you honk at people? You're letting them know you're trying to kill them?
That's kind of the intent.
Jesus.
Anyway, but before that happens, before they launch the meteorite, Marcus says, "Hey, I was promised a sandwich." And so he goes into his grandma's sandwich shop that she owns.
Sandwich shop / dentist clinic.
Yeah, Grands is Grands. And she says, "Here is your sandwich, Marcus. It is made of the one thing I cherish the most."
Grandpa.
Little do we know that Marcus and all the mole people are actually cannibals as well. Yeah, we find that out at that part.
And so they're just about ready to launch their meteorite to Mars to stop the vole people. And, and then, unfortunately for them, the vole people did it first and a meteorite crashes into them. And
But-
they all dead.
It turns out the meteorite was made of the magical underwear. They were just trying to return it. So everybody died except for Grandma. She puts the magical underwear on, makes the sandwich, eats it, and Grandpa comes back to life.
Well, Grandpa, in a way, he comes back to life in the fact that they both inhabit the same body now.
Yeah, so they can talk to each other and share their life together through one body.
And
I thought it was really romantic.
and then
It was
we
very
get
sweet.
Yeah,
and then everybody else is dead.
Except for Marcus, because he was like half dead already.
yeah,
Right.
So
He's undead.
yeah.
Yeah,
So Marcus is
Undies and undead.
yeah.
So then what happens is we cut to 20 years later, and we have 9-year-old, what's left of Marcus's 9-year-old body swinging on the tire swing.
Because of course he can't age now.
Right, but he can deteriorate, and
Yeah.
he does.
He does not look good.
He's swinging on that tree. It's sort of like this sweet moment, but like a little macabre. And then inside the house, we see Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, we see Grandma.
We see Grandma, yeah.
We see Grandpa
We know what you meant, yeah.
sitting on their
Grandma.
porch, sitting on their porch swing inside the house. And this is their last moment on Earth. And before they take their last breath, they kiss each other on sort of, well, they sort of like took she ripped off part of her lips and pressed them together in a kissy motion 6 times.
Yeah.
And then we jump in the movie version. That ends the scene, and we jump cut to the sky that says, "Done." In the song, that part never happens because
It's only a 2.5-minute song.
The song is more of like a sort of
An accompaniment for
yeah.
the book.
I mean, it's
Supposed to play it on repeat in
it's
the
a
background
pop
while you're reading
ballad.
the book.
The song is a pop ballad, so they wanted it to be a little more upbeat. But in the book, after that happens, we jump cut to the ground, and we see the body of Marcus just crying and dying, and the words earthworms appear in the ground, and they spell out the word
Done.
yeah. I like the book ending better.
Yeah,
It's a
me
little
too. More visual.
Yeah.
More visual than the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. That's
Mentally
why you
visual.
like it more.
Thank you all for listening to the Totally Unreal Book Club podcast, our weekly review podcast in association with the Voices of Anarchy, of which everyone here is also a member. You can check us out at www.voicesofanarchy.com or on Twitter at voicesanarchy. You can find the podcast on podcast services around the globe, and you can support the podcast on patreon.com/tubcpodcast. That's TUBC podcast. On Twitter and Instagram at tubcpodcast, and you can literally just find us everywhere else at TUBC podcast. Please remember to like and review and rate and subscribe and 5-star the podcast because it helps us out, and some of those things may have been Twitter or Facebook related, but do those too. I want to thank once again the panel this week, and you can follow each of us on our personal Twitters at
caitlionroar.
handfofficial.
Steve Marriott.
and willjwood. Thank you all once again, and we'll see you and you and you and you, but not you, next week.
Done.
Are there real ghosts in Miss Pac-Man? Are satanic secrets hidden in your Excel spreadsheet? Did Pokemon cause a spike in suicides in Japan? Hello gamers, I'm Tim Gibson, host of the Cabinet Podcast. I look at the strange occurrences behind your favorite video games. A new weird creepy story drops every 2 weeks on Wednesdays. That's the Cabinet Podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, and other major podcast platforms.